turn to our legal analyst, Martha Coakley. She's not just a former Massachusetts Attorney General. She was also a federal prosecutor and is now of counsel at Foley Hoag. Martha, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Hi, Ben and Erica. Glad to be here.
Yes, so good to see you. So this indictment really paints a damning portrait of the former president, alleging he treated what we now know as very sensitive national security information with seeming disregard. So take a look. According to the indictment, in the documents he kept were details of defense and weapons capabilities of the U.S. and foreign countries. Also information about our nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities, and plans of attack. All of this stored at a social club with little security in places like the ballroom, even a bathroom. So what was your biggest takeaway upon seeing this indictment today?
Well, it's clear that, at least by the allegations, the former president treated this sensitive information, important for national security, both carelessly and cavalierly. I mean, not only was it out there so others could see it, the allegations are that he showed it to people and told other people. And of course, some of the concern was, given that he had it, what was he planning to do with it in the future for his own purposes? So the indictment is pretty complete and I think says why the case was important to bring.
So one argument that the former president's legal team has put out there before we saw all this is that he was the president, and so he could declassify details when he wanted. I think most objective people might understand how that could raise a reasonable doubt when it's put to a jury. But the indictment says when he showed one of these plans of attack, he admitted on tape, allegedly, that he did not declassify it, that it was still secret. So you think that's going to be pivotal here to proving perhaps there was a crime committed?
Yeah, there's very little evidence that is as compelling, demonstrative as one's own words on tape. We saw some example of that in the civil case against him recently, but in any criminal case where there's a recording that's admissible and it's in the defendant's own voice, juries by and large are convinced by that. So I think it's very important evidence here.
Well, and so much information in the indictment. It seems that some of Trump's former aides, employees, even attorneys are now cooperating with investigators. So how solid does this case seem to you based on what we can read?
There's always an issue with baggage, perhaps, with witnesses who might have been given immunity. That will unfold at trial, of course. One of the people involved with the allegations at this stage appears to be one of his former attorneys, so you have to think he's probably pretty credible. But on top of that, this is not just about testimony from other cooperating witnesses. The documents really are the key here, and that he had them, that he knew he wasn't supposed to have them, what he did with them are going to be the real star of this case, and that's something that you can't cross-examine.
So this afternoon, the special counsel, Jack Smith, who's bringing this case, said he's going to try to seek a speedy trial here. But what is the likelihood of that? And, you know, as you well know, we all know we've got a presidential election about 17, 18 months from now. So if Trump is reelected, and this is maybe there's been, you know, the first round has happened, but it's on appeal, could he simply make this case go away?
Well, if it's still pending, I think it's going to be hard for him. In other words, if he's not convicted or it's still on appeal, it would be very hard for him to make it go away. Don't forget, you're going to have an active Congress and others who are going to say, no, you can't just make this disappear. He could face another impeachment potentially. But if he is convicted, so here's the interesting thing. If he happens to be convicted and then he is reelected, that's a different story. And of course, now he's the president again. So it'll be an interesting set of facts to look at. We've never faced that before.
Yeah, so unprecedented. And talking about a potential conviction, I mean, some of these charges, they're very serious charges. They could result in up to 20 years in prison. I mean, this is asking you to look far down the road, so many different variables. But could jail time be likely in a case like this?
So what the maximum sentences in the statute is doesn't result in what someone is actually given. However, the bulk of these and the importance of them will dictate perhaps that a court, if he is convicted on these or most of them, would look at sentencing guidelines, which are always tough in federal court, and what other cases have been given. But this is going to be an interesting sentencing argument. So, my question is, should he be looking at prison time which way does it cut that he's the former president? I think it could cut either way, and it will depend upon a sentencing judge and what the facts actually are in front of the jury. But it is a little early to start thinking about that.
All right, Martha Coakley, former Massachusetts Attorney General and now an attorney of counsel at Foley Hoag. We always appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for your time.
Nice to see you both.